Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how long this video is going to be this time because this time I'm covering a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, which is by the title of the video, talking about daddy issues and having the importance of having a good father present in the household, in my opinion. And also based on, I don't have the studies, but I've heard there's been studies done about it, and it makes total sense to me. Now, I know that not every situation where, a child is brought up is there a mother and father in the home for whatever reason. There's a list of reasons. But I genuinely think that's a problem. And I'm not saying it as like a anti-homophobic thing or something like that. I'm saying it because let me put it like this. If you're going to need to deal with men in the world, and you are in one way or another, whether romantically or platonically or both, you're going to need to interact with men in the world. And because of that, it's best to get as much knowledge about men from another man as you can. Now, I'm not talking about women being in the home for a list of reasons. I think that's important too. But I'm really talking about men because while I'm black and I'm sure everyone knows about, the shortage of black fathers when it comes to the black community, I really want to talk about and I want to emphasize, I'm talking about good fathers. Like, I'm choosing these words very carefully. Good fathers being present. Those words, all of them, are very important because let me say something. Just because um, th- a man who has kids is in the house, that does not make him a father. Just because you have a two-parent household, a man and a woman, that does not make him a father. Not a good one. It doesn't. I mean, if he's being abusive, if he's barely there, whether because, he's a you know, essentially a deadbeat that goes out and does whatever, or just because, he could be a good man, but if he's always working and he's never around, then his positive impact doesn't get to have an effect on his children. So that's why I'm saying it needs to be a man who is first good and then also present. Both of those need to happen, or else it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even really matter. Okay? I really think that that's important to say. Now, I think it's important for both, boys and girls growing up. And not just one, but both. Because I feel like, a big reason why we have so many men today that are angry or who don't want to commit or whatever other reason, I feel like there's a very good chance, I'm not saying it's definite, but I feel like there's a very good chance they didn't have a good, strong male role model in their life. And I know I said, father, I I would I say that because I would hope that the father would be the good present male influence in his son's life. I would hope that. But, you know, even if it's not, just to have a male, but no, I really do think if possible that's the best scenario, because I feel like if there's a reason why, like a controllable reason, right? Like if unfortunately the man passed on, that's, I think, is a completely different thing. Very unfortunate, very tragic, right? But if there is a reason outside of that, that the man has chosen to not be in his child's life, son or daughter, if there's a reason he's chosen not to be in this child's life, I think even that is going to have psychological effects, because, there's a very good chance that the child is going to feel like this sense of either abandonment or not feeling good enough. I think it's a lot of that. And you know when it comes to sons, if they don't have a good male role model to replicate the behavior of, then in all fairness, I do think that it's harder to expect them to display good and positive traits. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying that when you're not taught the things that you should be taught, I mean, how can you expect someone to know something? I mean, if you don't know even that you're supposed to know something, you don't even know that you should be trying to learn it. I feel like that's something that people don't really take into consideration, even outside of this conversation, but that could be its own video. So I'm not going to talk on that so much. But, what I am going to say is that if you don't have a guide, if you don't have a teacher, you may never learn certain lessons. You may never even think that you need to learn those lessons. Or maybe the thought that you should learn them is there, but you're never taught why. So maybe someone's telling you something, right? But if you don't know why you should do it, then there's a better chance you're not going to do it. So I don't want to completely excuse any, negative male behavior, but I do feel like it makes sense. It's understandable, and it's extremely unfortunate. If we're talking about in a heterosexual relationship romantically, if a man isn't taught how to treat a woman, it goes back to what I just said. If he doesn't learn to have a strong sense of self as a man, I mean, now you could argue, well, you can learn that uh even if the person isn't a man, and that's true. But I would also say that, a lot of people like to talk about, like in media, the whole sense of I can't think of the exact word at the moment, unfortunately. Representation, there we go. People like to talk about representation in the media because it gives them someone to relate to. And I feel like that's a similar thing here. Yes, you as a man can still learn from a woman, but it doesn't have this, I feel like it doesn't hit the same as learning it from a man. Now I say all this, and then maybe you're saying, all right, well, that's for men, and that makes sense. But then why is it as important for a woman? Isn't it fine if she just has her mother then? Because if a man is to a man, then wouldn't a woman be to a woman or something like that? And to that, I would say I think that a man has a very important part to play in a woman's life as well. Reason for that is if she is going to romantically deal with men, then for one thing, having her father love her is that's already going to be huge. Because I feel like one of the problems that happens these days is there are a lot of girls, and I do mean girls, not necessarily women, but girls whose fathers never really loved them. And so, even though it would be a platonic love, a familial love, they don't know what it's like to be loved properly by a man. And in addition to that, if they don't have his guidance, if they don't have him telling them, hey, if a man does this, don't talk to him, don't let a man do this, a man should treat you this way, that guidance, if she doesn't get that from him, from another man who knows men, because he is a man, then as she tries to navigate men herself, there's a much higher chance that she's going to fail. There just is. There's such a high chance that she's going to fail. And there are a lot of different ways that she could fail. And I mean, it all depends on how you frame it, right? Because, for example, if she gets pregnant, not to say that her baby is, any resulting baby is, something that she regrets per se, but just the fact that you're pregnant by someone that, you know, chooses not to stay, or they do, but they're a negative impact in your life. And, if you weren't ready for this baby at this moment, then, the pregnancy, it wasn't, it wasn't a positive thing for this season in your life, right? So that could be considered a negative. Or if you end up getting an STD, if you have to go through any sort of abuse, because of the man, and if the signs were there with this man, but you were never taught what the signs were, if you were never taught when to walk away, or if the only experience you have with a man is him being abusive to women, and so you start to associate that with love, right? These are all negative things that start to happen because she didn't have that positive male role model, who, again, I would hope would be her father, loving her and guiding her the way that he should have. And she puts up with things, she does things that she maybe wouldn't have. Because again, I will say this, just because you have a good man, a good male role model in your life, it doesn't, I'm not saying that it's going to mean that you're definitely going to end up being this great positive person. I'm not saying that, okay? But I am saying that I do think that it would probably have a much more positive impact. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people don't even realize how deep daddy issues can affect them. And I say that because I am someone who has daddy issues. And I didn't even realize it until later in life. So maybe that means I didn't get them until later in life. I don't know. I just know that I have them now. And, I'm trying to deal with them, but because I know that I have them, I can identify where they've made weaknesses in my life, in my thinking. So I'm very conscious of it. I at least am conscious of it. I at least know that it's something, you know, that I have to be conscious of. I have to, be willing to work through. But I think a lot of people don't even realize it. And that's the first step, you know? And even if you're not going to be romantically involved with a man, as a woman, if you just have to share spaces with men, then just understanding how they think, what they're going to think of you, how they move in general. I mean, that can help you in a lot of other areas. Even if you have no interest in them, that doesn't mean that they don't have an interest in you. And, it's good to know how to navigate that. And I just think it's so sad that, again, whether the father, whether he's in the house, or but he's a good man, but he's always working, so he doesn't have the time to be around. Or he's in the house technically, but he always, leaves because he's a deadbeat. Or he's in the house and he really is in the house, but he is like, let's say he's not even necessarily abusive, but he's just emotionally unavailable. He still doesn't respect you, which maybe you would still consider that abuse. I don't know, but just in case you don't, you know, if you have to deal with that, if you just feel like he doesn't love you for whatever reason, that can mess you up. It's a childhood developmental issue a lot of times. And I think just in general, people don't realize the childhood trauma that affects them in their current lives. And that's actually something that I decided I was going to do a video on. And then I thought about this specifically, and I said I don't want to blend the two together, even though they could be, because they are related. But I really want daddy issues to have its own video, because again, it's something that really is so important to me, because it's something that I realized later in life, something that impacted, you know, my self-esteem, the way I see myself and other people. And I never realized it, and I wish that I would have known sooner. I wish a whole lot of things would be different, but they're not. And it is what it is, right? You don't always have the ideal circumstances, but when you don't, you just work through them as best you can. And so, with that being said, I do feel like the only reason someone would even click on this video is if they either already thought that they had daddy issues, or yeah, actually, I feel like that's the main reason someone would even maybe click on this video. So I doubt that someone who, doesn't realize that they're dealing with them is going to click on this and then hear something that I say and have something click for them. I don't know that that would happen, although it would be nice if it did. But, I still just wanted to talk about it and touch on it, because, it really does make a difference. And what really, really pushed me to decide to make this video right now is because I was watching this video, and the video was it was supposed to be a video for women, and I watched it. It was about 3 minutes, and it was a woman talking about 3 lessons that her father taught her. Um, and I thought it was a great video. If I'm able to, I'll try to link it in the description. But then I also saw a comment, And in the comment, um, this is what the comment said. It said, "Heard a man ask a convict, 'What do I have to do to keep my daughter from ending up with a man like you?' Convict says, 'Tell her you love her, because if you don't, she'll believe me when I do.' Your father's love is so important." That last line is what the commenter said, and I agree. But when I saw that comment, I thought, wow, that was really powerful, because I think that happens a lot more than we tend to acknowledge. But like I said, it's not just, it doesn't just impact women, it impacts men, it impacts girls and boys, it impacts everyone. So I don't know if you were listening to this and you don't identify with binaries, I still think it affected you. So, you know, that's my 2 cents on it. I feel like if I were to keep going, I'd probably just be regurgitating information at this point, most likely. So I'll stop here. But if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, please feel free in the comments. Um, Otherwise, thank you for listening. Hope you got something out of this, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one.